Hello, my name is Dr. Ruthie, or Dr. Ruth Newstifter if you want to be formal. I'm a professional sexuality educator. I blog over at exploringintimacy.com, and I'm also the author of The Nice Girl's Guide to Talking Dirty, and I am here answering your questions on sex and relationships thanks to the fantastic folks over at funwares.com who make this possible, so make sure to go over and pay them a visit. I have a question for you that just came in by Twitter, and I can't wait to read it to you. This person didn't give me a fake name, so let's call them Sugar. I think that's a good name. Sugar asks, let's see, my boyfriend wants to know a little bit more about discharge and is sometimes uncomfortable. Can you comment a little bit on the different types of vaginal discharge? And is it self-lubricant or is it different times of the month? And sometimes it's thick and white. Is that weird or gross? What's the difference between the thick white stuff and the more clear stuff? Is it differences in the cycle or in the person or both? I am so glad that you asked us that question, Sugar, because this is something that a lot of women and women's partners wonder about, especially if their partners happen to be male and not so familiar with vaginal discharge. So let me give you the broadest answer first. It's very, very natural and normal. In fact, it's expected for vaginal discharge to vary in the way it looks and feels and smells and tastes, and in that consistency throughout the course of the month. At the same time, if it varies in a way that's not healthy, then it can be a sign of a vaginal infection or some sort of other problem, which can be very easily treated, does not necessarily relate to a sexually transmitted infection. It can go either way, so no reason to stay away from the doctor. Of course, if it is a sexually transmitted infection, there's no reason to stay away from the doctor there either, but I know some of you get shy and, knowing that bacterial infections can transmit in lots of ways may be helpful for you to get to the doctor, whatever it takes to get you there to check it out if it's not right. But anyway, they can be easily treated, so it's not a big deal. I just got to get to the doc. So let's talk a little bit about what is normal and what is not normal. And I want to preface this by saying that there's lots of great information out there. If you're at all concerned about your health, you should be talking to your doctor about this, or your nurse practitioner, or whoever is your healthcare provider. I am getting this information from several great sources. Foremost is scarleteen.com, SCARLETTEN.com. And if you just go ahead and Google scarleteen and vaginal discharge, you're going to get a great write-up and lots of wonderful links right there. So let's talk about what normal discharge is. It can range from very clear and thin and kind of watery and light, so like sweat or a little bit thicker than sweat, but without that kind of necessarily tasty sort of association, like that salty taste kind of association. This is the kind of discharge that usually occurs around ovulation, this clear, thin kind of stuff. Easy for the sperm to swim through if you need a natural reasoning for it. And sometimes vaginal secretions, when you're really excited and turned on, can have this really thinner kind of consistency to them. And this goes for whether you're, in adolescence or whether you're in adulthood. That's definitely the case. What if it's white or slightly yellowish and thick and like tacky? As in it has like a... Have you ever tried those hair products where like you put it on your hands and you do like a little stretch with it? You know what I'm talking about? Like bedhead and stuff like that? A little bit of that stretch factor to it is what I mean by tacky. Not as much as the hair product, but a little bit of like stringiness to it, right? And this is kind of like a consistency of a light paste. And this is normal for when you're having less fertile times of the month in your monthly cycle. And now, what if it has like curds or chunks in it? That's a problem. Then we have a problem. What if it has a particularly strong odor? Now, this one's a really tough one to just describe verbally speaking. So it's normal for vaginas to have a vagina smell. If you've ever been to the vagina monologues, then probably you've seen the monologue presented about how a vagina is supposed to smell like a vagina, and that's normal and natural. And if you're excited or you're sweaty or you've had a long day or whatever the case may be, like you may notice your vaginal smell when you're just kind of like sitting around or working out or whatever, and that can be within the realm of normal. If it's really strong, and it's not that you're like, oh my gosh, my vagina, that's kind of embarrassing if you react in an embarrassed way, but it's strong where you're like, woo, woo, woo. That's probably a bacterial problem, right? So, or some other sort of infection. At least it's a risk for that, and you're going to want to get it checked out. So it's kind of hard for me to make that description without some sort of examples, but hopefully my verbal is helping you with this. So it's normal to have a mild but not unpleasant odor or scent. If you're embarrassed easily, that doesn't count as unpleasant. That still can be within the range of healthy. It might have a light brown tint just before or after your period, and if there's like tons and tons of it, you might be, and you're not like in a new relationship or sometime when you're really turned on, or you're not in that period of adolescence where you're just making a lot naturally, that could be a problem. If there's very little of it, it may be related to your time in life. If you're menopausal or postmenopausal, getting cancer treatment, it might just be kind of your dry time of the month. But if this is becoming chronic, visit a healthcare practitioner for good ways to work with that and to see what's up. It's absolutely normal for vaginal discharge to end up in your underwear and to be visible on your labia. That's just fine. It's a problem if it's chunky or heavy, like it has like a gritty, chunky consistency, visually speaking, like little curds like cottage cheese. If it's really, really watery and profuse, like drooling, kind of profuse. I don't know how else to say that more delicately. If there's a really strong, unpleasant odor, grayish, greenish, yellowish, or pinkish, not the pinkish of like I'm having some sweating in my period, but just like pinkish at times when you wouldn't have that problem. Then you might go ahead and talk to a doctor instead of not might. You definitely should go and talk to a doctor about those things. So it's normal to have some good, variation throughout the month, but it's also, something to be keeping an eye on to make sure that everything is working correctly in the way you want it to be. It should have, that delightful vaginal smell to it that attracts our partners. And so that's perfectly normal. If it has kind of an off-putting smell and you smell and you're like, that just doesn't smell right, then follow your hunch with that. You could wait it out 24 hours and just see if it's where you are in your cycle, waiting it out for a couple of days, but, follow your gut with that and talk to your doctor about it for sure. I'm Dr. Ruthie. I hope that this helps you. Check out scarleteen.com and other great resources on vaginal discharge, and thanks to Funwares for making this video possible. I'll see you around.